There is a unique thing that we can do with functions that we haven't seen before, and they're called docstrings. Let me show you what I mean. If I had a function here, and we'll just call it test, and test, let's say, receives a parameter that is a, and in here it's going to print a. What a useless, completely useless function. Now, if I run this, well, nothing's going to happen because I have to call test and then say, well, exclamation marks. And you see that our function works. But we can actually, with functions in Python, use something called docstrings. And it looks something like this. You do single quote, single quote, single quote, so 3 of them, and then at the bottom, once again, single quote, single quote, single quote. So at the beginning of the function, like this, and in here, I can add some info about the function. For example, this function tests and prints param a. Now here's the interesting part. If I run test here and I do brackets, look at that. My editor tells me info. This function tests and prints param a. This is called a docstring. And what it allows us to do is to actually comment inside of our functions in a way that if another person, let's say, is using the test function, they can actually, let's say, in the future, when we write large applications where it's not just 10 lines of code, or maybe we have different files, instead of just finding what test does, as I'm typing it, it's going to tell me, hey, test is going to return or print param a. So I find out information about this. And if we ever use something like length, for example, and run this, you see that this gives us information about the function by using docstrings, but it comes built in with Python. Another way to view this, mind you, when we talk about developer environments, our editors are going to do this automatically. But there's a few other ways that we can actually read this. For example, I can do the help function, which we haven't seen before, which comes pre-built with Python. And we don't want to call the function. I just want to call help on test. If I run this, look at that. I get test a info. This function tests and prints param a. So we can use help to find out what a function does, which is really, really useful. One other way to do this is to use what we call a magic method or a dunder method, which again, we'll get into later on in the course. I do double underscore, then I do doc, and then double underscore, like this. If I click run, well, we have to print something here. So let's print, click run, and look at that, I get the same thing. So these docstrings are really, really useful to add comments and definitions to your functions so that when other people on your, let's say, team or coworkers come across your function that you created, they're able to understand what it does right away without searching through your Python files or multiple files. Very useful feature.